When I think about my childhood, I don't remember warmth. I don't remember bedtime stories, laughter at the dinner table, or the feeling of being safe. Instead, I remember fear. I remember the loud voices, the breaking of glass, the sound of my mother crying, and the feeling of my small hands covering my ears, trying to block out the noise. My parents fought almost every day. Their love had turned into war, and I was caught in the middle. My father's anger was like a storm, unpredictable, violent, and terrifying. My mother tried to protect me, but she was too broken herself. Some nights, I lay awake in bed, my heart pounding, waiting for the storm to come. I knew the signs, the heavy footsteps, the sharp tone in his voice, the smell of alcohol in the air. And then, it would begin. The yelling, the accusations, the sounds of things being thrown. Sometimes, I heard my mother begging him to stop. Other times, there was silence, an even more terrifying silence. There were nights when he hit her. I never saw it happen, but I knew. I saw the bruises she tried to hide, the way she flinched when he moved too fast. I wanted to help her, to protect her, but I was just a child. What could I do? As I grew older, I carried that fear with me everywhere. I learned to walk on eggshells, to stay quiet, to disappear when my father was in a bad mood. I learned that love could hurt, that words could be weapons, and that home was not always a safe place. At school, I was different from the other kids. While they laughed and talked about their favorite cartoons, I was lost in my own world, trapped in my own thoughts. I couldn't tell anyone what was happening at home. Who would believe me? And even if they did, what could they do? I started to believe that I wasn't enough. If I had been a better child, maybe my father wouldn't be so angry. If I had been smarter, quieter, more obedient, maybe things would have been different. I hated myself for being weak, for not being able to change anything. At night, when the house was quiet, I cried into my pillow, wishing I could disappear. Wishing I could run away to a place where no one would hurt me anymore. One night, the fight was worse than usual. My father came home drunk, angrier than I had ever seen him. My mother tried to calm him down, but nothing worked. He started throwing things, plates, chairs, anything he could reach. I sat in the corner of the room, frozen, unable to move. And then, for the first time, his anger turned toward me. He grabbed my arm, his grip so tight it hurt. His eyes, filled with rage, locked onto mine. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would stop. I didn't understand what I had done wrong, but in that moment, I thought he was going to hurt me too. Then, my mother stepped in. She pushed him away, shielding me with her own body. "Not him," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Please, not him." Something in my father's eyes changed. Maybe he realized what he was doing. Maybe he just got tired. He let go of me and stumbled away. But that moment stayed with me forever. The moment I knew I wasn't safe, not even in my own home. That night, my mother made a decision. She packed a small bag, took my hand, and we left. I didn't ask where we were going. I didn't care. All I knew was that we were finally leaving the place that had hurt us for so long. We spent nights in a shelter, surrounded by other women and children who had stories like ours. For the first time, I realized we weren't alone. It wasn't easy. My mother was scared, and so was I. But we had each other. And for the first time, there were no fights, no yelling, no fear of what would happen next. Even after we left, the pain didn't disappear. The memories stayed. The fear followed me everywhere. Every time I heard a loud voice or saw someone drinking, my body tensed up. My heart raced. I expected the worst. For a long time, I kept everything inside me. I smiled when I had to. I pretended I was okay. But inside, I was still that scared little child, waiting for something bad to happen. It wasn't until I met a kind teacher in high school that things began to change. She saw something in me, something no one else had. She noticed how I flinched when someone raised their voice, how I avoided eye contact, how I always seemed lost in my thoughts. One day, she sat beside me and said, "You don't have to carry this alone." Her words broke something inside me. For the first time, I allowed myself to cry in front of someone else. I told her everything. And she listened. She didn't judge me. She didn't tell me to just move on. She simply let me feel. That was the moment I realized I didn't have to suffer in silence anymore. I started writing, pouring my emotions onto paper. I wrote letters to my younger self, telling them it wasn't their fault. I wrote about my anger, my sadness, my confusion. And slowly, my pain became lighter. Writing gave me power. It helped me take control of my story instead of letting my past control me. Eventually, I found the courage to go to therapy. It was hard at first. Talking about my past felt like reopening old wounds. But my therapist helped me understand that healing isn't about erasing the past, it's about making peace with it. She taught me that I wasn't broken, that my trauma didn't define me, that I was worthy of love, kindness, and happiness. I also learned to practice self-love. I started taking care of myself, eating well, sleeping enough, doing things that made me happy. I surrounded myself with people who made me feel safe. And slowly, I started to believe that I deserved good things. Today, I am no longer the scared child hiding in the corner. I am no longer afraid of my past. I have built a life filled with kindness, love, and peace. I have learned that love should never hurt, that my voice matters, and that I am worthy of happiness. And though my past will always be a part of me, it no longer controls me. It no longer defines me. I survived. I healed. And now I live. To anyone who has ever felt like I did, lost, broken, afraid, I want you to know this: you are not alone. You are not weak. And you are not defined by what happened to you. You are strong. You are worthy. And you deserve a life filled with love and peace. Because no matter how dark the past was, a brighter future is always waiting.